Michael Saylor is currently sending out a 13 million Bitcoin shock warning, here live on CNBC in his latest interview, and says that he's now even more bullish because banks and regulators are giving the green light. This is going to pump Bitcoin massively upwards. He says here that Bitcoin is the future and an opportunity for everyone, and that's something you shouldn't miss. But we're also going to take a look at what else is happening. Here we have massive developments at Metaplanet. Crazy things are happening. And suddenly they want to buy 200,000 more Bitcoin than originally planned. We have billionaires jumping on the Bitcoin bandwagon now. And I really need every single like so that Bitcoin can truly take off again and go full throttle. If you want the Bitcoin price to keep soaring, smash that like button down below. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button below right now. Saylor has also increased his Stride Holdings strategy, doing a capital raise. That means he can now raise even more capital. He's taking it from 250 million and ramping it up to $1 billion. This is really, really good what's happening here, because the more capital we raise on the equity side of MicroStrategy, and the less we do it through ATMs, the more flexibility Michael Saylor has, and the less uncertainty there is. A lot of people have said that Saylor can only buy Bitcoin through the ATM side, meaning by issuing more shares, and not through his financial products like Stride, and so on. And now we're seeing something different, that things are really starting to pick up, but of course, it takes time. We'll look at all of Michael Saylor's statements later, but first, we have Adam back here, who says that politics doesn't work. He says this in a new interview. He says you should just buy Bitcoin. That means, don't listen to politicians, buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin can't be redistributed by politicians, and so on. In my opinion, that's a very, very important point that you definitely need to take away from this. What really shocked me, I saw this statistic earlier, and apparently Tesla currently has over $37 billion in cash available. I don't know if that's true. Feel free to let me know in the comments below if that's correct. If that's true, that would be insanely crazy. And here the Bitcoin therapist says, it would be a shame if Elon Musk had bought 350,000 Bitcoin. Sorry, I said that wrong just now. It would be a shame if Elon Musk had bought 350,000 Bitcoin for this, and is now signaling here that the dollar is going bankrupt. Because if Elon Musk makes the dollar go bankrupt, maybe he secretly bought 350,000 Bitcoin here. But of course, he didn't do that. I mean, you would have seen that in the Bitcoin price if he had bought 350,000 Bitcoin here. He can't just do that all at once, and so on. But this is just to illustrate how much potential buying power Tesla would theoretically have, because they could easily buy an enormous amount of Bitcoin if they wanted to. And what was really the shocker of the day for me were the statements from Mike Sala, which we'll look at in a moment, here at Metaplanet, who originally wanted to buy 21,000 Bitcoin by 2026, and now they want to buy 210,000 Bitcoin by 2027. So they're not just doubling it, they're actually adding 200,000 Bitcoin on top of that. And that's obviously epic, and I already told you, wow, maybe a week or two ago, that Metaplanet would probably reach the 21,000 Bitcoin they want to accumulate by 2026 much sooner, maybe even this year. They just bought another 1,000 Bitcoin and so on. I can imagine they might even pull it off this year, or at the latest, sometime early next year or so. And then, of course, it makes sense to accumulate even more Bitcoin here, and that's definitely a big deal. I mean, these companies are really outbidding each other right now. And now we even have one of the top fiat guys in the world, one of the top fiat billionaires, Ken Griffin here, who is very well known from Citadel Securities, is now saying that Bitcoin and crypto are markets they definitely want to be involved in, and that they don't want to miss out on. And that's exactly what more and more people are realizing, that you can't afford to sleep on Bitcoin. It has to be Twitter and Square Investor. Greg Kitt also says here that he wants to be here with his Inc. Buy another 1,000 Bitcoin. We have the United States allowing Bitcoin ETFs for retail investors, which is a big deal. There used to be some kind of ban or restriction on that. I'm not familiar with the legal details, but we're seeing more and more markets opening up, more and more people opening up to it. Michael Saylor, for example, used to be very critical of Bitcoin as well. Now he's the ultimate bull. You couldn't be more bullish than he is. And now let's take a look at why he's even more bullish now. He says he's getting even more bullish when he sees what's happening with Bitcoin right now. And that's why he's continuing to buy in a big way.
6 months have been tremendous. All of the fundamental planets have aligned. Bitcoin's been acknowledged as the one digital commodity in the world by the administration. The banking regulators have given a green light to bank Bitcoin. The accountants have upgraded the accounting to fair value accounting.
He's now listing the reasons why the last 6 months have been so incredible. And that's really what you need to understand. Seriously, people who don't get this now, who are just sitting on the sidelines and letting themselves be fooled by the Bitcoin price just because it's not at 150,000 US dollars or something yet. You have to realize the fundamental work that's happening behind the scenes and what's really going on in the background. How many times have I told you this already? We have a massive information asymmetry. Michael Saylor says it, Adam Back says it, and so on. All the OGs, they tell you this straight to your face. And there are still people, like Schnitzel Peter, who are still asleep and stuck in a bratwurst coma. Michael Saylor says it. Now we have banks giving the green light. We have regulators giving the green light. The US government giving the green light. And Donald Trump, who says, don't sell your Bitcoin. A Donald Trump who laughs at Elon Musk for selling his Bitcoin. A Howard Lutnick who has millions, hundreds of millions in Bitcoin and is part of the Trump administration. A Michael Saylor who tells you every day what's going on here. And yet, there are still people who are critical here. People who still question the whole thing. I just wrote about this yesterday. Many seriously believe that Bitcoin is a huge illusion. And at the same time, these are the same people who think that Bitcoin is a risk. They willingly pay an absurd loan every month for 35 years of debt slavery for a concrete block that could collapse with the next interest rate hike. And now they sit between monitored lawns and prohibition signs, having dinner with gluten-free chicken McNuggets from factory farming, with a palm oil seal and a fancy label. And Bratwurst Peter is part of that too. He also belongs to this human menu here. They chug zero-sugar energy drinks and feel morally superior while doing it. And at the same time, they pray that their financial advisor is right, that he doesn't rip them off, because of course they only trust strangers, not themselves. And at the same time, they hope we'll survive World War III. And people say this isn't crazy. To me, it's absolutely crazy what's going on here. And you just have to come to the conclusion. The real madness isn't Bitcoin. The real madness is what everyone considers normal. Everything that's considered normal is sick. Break out of the matrix. Take different paths. Take new paths. You know that meme? On the left side, there's the path everyone takes. It's all trampled down, dirty, nasty, moldy, it stinks. And on the right, there's a path that's a bit rough, but the meadows are blooming. Nobody goes there. Nobody walks that way. And so on. And those are the innovators, the wealthy people, the happy people, the lucky ones, and so on. Don't let yourself get fooled by the mainstream media and so on. Subscribe to the channel here. And now let's keep watching to see what Michael Saylor has to say, because this is pure gold.
There's been a surge of Bitcoin treasury companies. There's like 100 public companies or more that are holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and every single week there's another announcement.
So there are companies every week, not just every week. By now, it feels like every hour on the hour. New Bitcoin treasury companies are popping up.
You know, it used to be we're focused on the halvings, but at this point, the entire natural supply of Bitcoin is only 450 Bitcoin available for sale every day. That's sort of about $45–50 million a day at this level. That is all being consumed by the Bitcoin treasury companies.
You have to be in on this. You have to buy Bitcoin now. The Bitcoin treasury companies are buying more Bitcoin than is currently being issued on the Bitcoin network. 450 Bitcoin. I actually calculated it. I think the rate was 3.1 or 3.2 or something like that. That means the treasury companies are buying 3.1 or 3.2 times as many Bitcoin as are being issued per day. That was a statistic from 2 or 3 weeks ago. By now, it could even be more.
The Bitcoin ETFs are coming on strong. So I'm very bullish. My forecast in July of last year in Nashville was Bitcoin's going to appreciate 29% a year on average for the next 21 years. And that moves it from, it was about mid-60, 65,000 to 13 million a coin in a year.
So he's saying here that his base case until 2035 is that Bitcoin will grow at an average compound annual growth rate of 29% per year. And then we'd be looking at a price of 13 million. And that would be in the year 2035. That would be shortly after Bitcoin Gold is released. That's also what I keep telling you. Guys, don't sleep on this. By then, 99% of all Bitcoin will have been mined. The relevant amount of Bitcoin will already have been mined. But the last bit that can still be mined, at least a little, will happen over the next 10 years. Actually, not even a full 10 years, really, until 2034. And if you're not getting involved now, then there's just no helping you. Cynthia Lummis said it. Of course, you can still get in next year, and even in 2 years, Bitcoin still won't be a bad investment. But if you get started now, it's just so much better. Do your homework. Don't just buy Bitcoin blindly. It doesn't do you any good if you just watch this video and say, yeah, okay, now I've gotten it. I'm going to buy Bitcoin. No, you really need to understand this deeply. Do your research, watch all the videos here, then go watch all the videos on other channels, then read all the books. Or okay, maybe not all of them, but at least until you feel confident. And then make decisions that you can take responsibility for yourself. Make decisions that you can stand by yourself. And don't say later, okay, the YouTuber said this and that, so I just copied it. No, do your own research, draw your own conclusions, and above all, Start thinking for yourself. Then you'll automatically come to the same conclusions that maybe Michael Saylor comes to here. Maybe not quite as radical, but you'll reach similar conclusions to the ones he does. You'll come to similar conclusions to the ones I'm drawing here.
I'm getting more bullish on that forecast, but surely.
So he says it very clearly. His price target of 13 million was too low here. He's raising his price target here. He says he's becoming even more bullish now. Bitcoin won't just rise to 13 million by 2035, but could go much, much higher. Earlier, he also talked about fair value accounting. The banks, those were always two elements that were extremely important, along with ETFs, in order to reach the price target. But by now, all of that has been achieved very easily, and theoretically, there's nothing left that could really stop us from breaking out fundamentally to the upside. The Valhalla candle is real.
Comfortable forecasting 30% a year AR on average for the next 20 years. I think Bitcoin.
So he's also saying here that predicting 30% per year for the next 30 years is, in his opinion, pretty easy to assume. Of course, that doesn't mean it will be exactly 30%. One year it could be 50%, then the next year maybe only 15%. Then in another year it might be 100% again, then maybe one year it's 200%, and then another year it could be minus 30% or something like that. But on average, we're looking at about 30% per year. And which stock? Which one? What gives you that kind of return? Earlier, I had a discussion here with someone. I wrote something like, well, I already read it to you before, about the concrete blocks. Someone said, yeah, I also bought stocks and concrete blocks. I made a lot of money with that. Yeah, you made a lot of money with it, but compared to Bitcoin, you actually lost money. Which stock has outperformed Bitcoin in the last 16 years? Which concrete block has outperformed Bitcoin in the last 16 years? Please write your answers below if you have any. I don't have any answers. He didn't have any answers either and said, yeah, you're right. You can't outperform Bitcoin, at least not in the long run, as things stand now. And if Bitcoin is making 30% per year, then tell me in the comments below, which stock is supposed to outperform that over the next 20 years? Which real estate investment is supposed to outperform that?
Bitcoin's up 57% a year for the past 4.5 years. Again, that's double the Mag 7. That's quadruple the S&P. That's it's 8 times real estate.
He also says Bitcoin has averaged 57% per year over the last 4 or 5 years because it has gone up. And that's twice as much as the S&P 500, 4 times as much as the Nasdaq, and 8 times as much as real estate. And then Schnitzelpeter, or the Brockwurst host, wants to tell me that Bitcoin isn't a good investment, and that he made a great deal with his stocks or his real estate. Of course, there's nothing wrong with diversification. Go ahead and diversify if that makes you feel comfortable. I also don't want to tell anyone they shouldn't own their own home. That's totally fine too, but then it doesn't count as an investment. It counts as a lifestyle choice. Don't go around saying, I'm buying a house now as an investment. No, those are liabilities. Robert Kiyosaki wrote about this 20 years ago in his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Houses you live in yourself are liabilities. They're obligations, not investments.
Bonds are down 4%. Bitcoin is smashing everything, Joe.
So Bitcoin is going to wipe everything out. Bonds are down and so on. The whole world is already down. Only Bitcoin keeps going up in the long run. But it's not quite that simple. And there are always opportunities, like with the treasury companies, where you might be able to outperform Bitcoin, but you always have to keep the long-term vision in mind. That's what I want you to take away from this. If you still want to buy Bitcoin, I'll put a link below for Trini on Bitcoin. Here you can buy Bitcoin easily, safely, and simply. With the code Bitcoin, today, you can still get up to 20% off the fees when buying Bitcoin. Guys, see you soon. Until then, peace out.